Tim couldn't remember how long he had been standing in line, or why he was wearing a grey jumpsuit, or why everyone around him was wearing a grey jumpsuit, or why the line was moving so slowly. It moved, then it stopped, then moved again, then stopped. It felt like he had spent an eternity in that line, and it had barely moved. Where am I? He wondered. Everything around him was grey. The walls, the carpet, the low ceiling. Even the fluorescent lights in the ceiling had a grey look to them. After what felt like an eternity, Tim reached the end of the line. Before him was a single grey cubicle. In front of the cubicle, there was a sign surrounded by a brown velvet rope, as if it were a piece in a museum. The sign read, "Wait here." Wait here, Tim thought. All I've done is wait. What am I waiting for? And where am I? What is this place? The questions were driving him crazy. He wondered if he had already gone crazy, thinking while he waited and thinking about waiting. It was torture. Then he heard a voice from inside the cubicle. "Next. Next in line, please." Tim hesitated before walking into the cubicle. Inside, there was a man sitting behind a small desk. The man smiled at him with a hollow smile. He was wearing a short-sleeved white shirt with a black tie and a pocket protector. "Please, Tim, sit down," the man said. "How do you know my name?" Tim asked. "Down here, we know everyone's name. Please have a seat. This won't take long." Tim sat down. "What's going on here? Where am I?" he asked. The man smiled again, but it was more of an impersonation of a smile than an actual smile. Tim could feel that there was something off about that smile and about the man in front of him. "Well, that's a good question. This is not a welcoming type of thing. You won't get a necklace of flowers or a goodie bag. I've never really thought about what this thing I've done all this time is actually called. I guess it's processing your personal information before you move on." "What do you mean by my personal information? And before I move on to where? I don't even know where I am." "Oh, you don't know? I guess this is what the kids call awkward. Well, Tim, I've never had to be the one to break the news, but I might as well just get on with it. You are in hell. As fate would have it, you ended up in hell. I know it's a disappointment, but I think we can help you make the best of it." "What do you mean, hell?" "Tim, this is actually hell. I know it doesn't have all the theatrics, but we moved away from all that a while ago. It was a branding thing." "I don't believe it. How can this really be hell?" "Well, this has always been hell. It's been hell since the beginning of time." "No, I mean, why am I in hell?" "Well, I actually don't know, but I suspect you did something during your life that led you here, and when you died, you ended up here. This is where people like you go after they die. Don't feel too bad. Everyone makes mistakes." "What do you mean, people like me? I haven't done anything." "You must have done something, otherwise you would have ended up in the other place. I mean, Mother Teresa didn't end up here, but you did. But the past doesn't matter anymore. Let's focus on the future, so let's get started." "No, wait a minute. I want to know why I'm here, and what's the other place, and how do I get there?" "Well, the other place is, upstairs. Way upstairs. Management doesn't like us naming it. It's a corporate thing, you know." "Okay, so why am I here? I've always been a good person." "I'm sure you were a good person, but that in itself might be debatable, considering you're sitting in front of me right now." "But you really don't remember, huh? That's interesting. But I really am sorry. I don't know why you ended up here. You can submit a form to get that information." "All right, I'll do that then. Can you give me that form?" "Let's see." The smiling man started typing and clicking his mouse, then suddenly stopped and turned to Tim, still smiling. "Yes, I can give you that form." "All right, I'll take it." "Hold on. We first need to follow the protocol. Always follow the protocol. You'll need to fill in the standard form. It's part of your admission process." "Admission. That's the word I was looking for. Then I can provide you with the information request form." The man pressed a key on his keyboard and a printer under the desk started up. it made a loud, unpleasant noise that went on for a long time. The man stared at Tim with his empty smile while the printer was busy. Eventually the printer stopped, and the man bent down, retrieved a single sheet of paper, and handed it to Tim. "Here you go. Please fill this out. There are pencils to your left. Once you've done so, I'll get you the other form." Tim grabbed a pencil. It was all chewed up. The rest were just as bad or worse. So he started on the form: name, mother's maiden name, date of birth, place of birth, height, blood type, food allergies, first pet's name, date of arrival. Tim stopped. The smiling man turned to him and smiled. "The 10th of November. That is your date of arrival." The smiling man pressed another key on the keyboard, and the printer started up again. This time the noise was louder and more unpleasant than before. The man stared at Tim while the printer went on for a long time. When it finally stopped, he leaned over and retrieved yet another single sheet of paper and handed it to Tim. "This is an information request form. Fill it out and you can submit it later, and eventually someone will get back to you." Tim looked at the form, then at the man. "You gave me the wrong form." "What do you mean?" "It's the same form. You gave me the same form as the one I just filled in. The questions are the same as in the first form." "It's not the same form. Look closely." Tim looked at the form. All the questions were the same as the first one, except for one thing. It had an additional line of text at the bottom that read, "Write your question below." "Are you kidding me? Is this it?" "Yeah. What did you think it was? Just write your question below and someone will get back to you eventually." "Eventually," Tim repeated. He filled out the second form and wrote his question at the bottom, "Why am I here?" and handed both forms to the man. The man read the information request form and handed it back to Tim. "Take the information request form with you, and someone will show you where you can submit it. Now, this is important. When you walk out, go down the hallway to your left. Don't go to the right. You'll come to a waiting room. Just take a seat, and eventually it will be your turn. Have a nice day, Tim." "Eventually," Tim repeated again. Tim walked out of the cubicle, carrying the form, and headed down the hallway the man had instructed him to. He came to a door with a sign above it that read, "Waiting Room." He walked into a large room, many people waiting around, but no one was talking, and they were all wearing grey jumpsuits just like his. Tim sat down. Is this really hell? He wondered. He had not seen fire or demons, nor smelled sulfur. Then he thought that he could just look out a window and see that he was not actually in hell. But there were no windows. Tim couldn't remember the last time he had seen a window. He looked around, but the only things he saw were the others waiting along with him, and the empty chairs that separated them. So he sat quietly like everyone else, and just waited, and waited, and waited. Eventually, he forgot that he was even waiting for something. Waiting felt like the natural thing to do, as if it were what he had always been meant to do, as if waiting was all there was, and all that there ever would be. Then he heard his name, and the silence and the waiting were broken. "Hello, Tim. Please follow me." A woman was standing next to him. She was wearing a white blouse, a long black skirt, and dull black leather shoes. Her face was stern, and her eyes purposeful. Her glossy black hair was pulled back tightly into a bun. It was so perfectly combed that not a single strand of hair was out of place. Tim wanted to ask something. Anything. There had been so many questions rushing through his mind. Where was he going? Was he really in hell? Why was he there? Could he leave eventually? Was it all a dream? Why couldn't he wake up? But he didn't ask anything. He just stood up and followed her. They walked through a door near where Tim had been sitting. He had not noticed it before, but he was certain that it had always been there. It had to be. He was sure that it had always been there. It felt good to be sure of something, he thought. The door opened into a long hallway. They walked for a long time until the woman stopped. "You can submit that form here." She motioned to a letterbox on the wall. Tim folded the form and pushed it through the rectangular opening. The woman continued down the hallway, and Tim followed closely behind her. The woman was very deliberate with everything she did. How she spoke, how she walked. even the way her eyes centered on Tim when she spoke to him. She was the opposite of the smiling man who was a bit aloof. The hallway just went on and on, seemingly unending. They passed many doors that looked exactly the same. It was as if the hallway was designed to make you go crazy. Then the woman stopped in front of a large grey door that was not like the others. She pressed a button on the wall and the door opened. She walked through it. Tim hesitated. "Come, Tim, we are almost there." Tim walked through the door and it closed behind him. It was another large space, brightly lit by fluorescent lights in the low ceiling. The floor was covered in thick grey carpet like every space he had been in. It was the largest space that he had been in, and it was filled with rows of grey cubicles. It felt very claustrophobic. "Follow me, Tim, I don't want you to get lost." Tim followed her through the maze of cubicles. They turned left, then right, then left again, then went straight for a long time, passing many cubicles with people in grey jumpsuits sitting in them. Then they turned left, then right, then left again, and finally stopped in front of an empty cubicle. "This is your station, Tim," the woman said. Tim looked around the cubicle. There was a desk and a chair. On the desk there sat a mouse and keyboard plugged into a small computer screen. Next to the desk was a stack of cardboard boxes. On the other side of the cubicle was a large printer with a paper shredder next to it. Everything in the cubicle was that sad grey colour. The woman picked up one of the boxes and placed it on the desk. She pressed a key on the keyboard and the computer screen flickered to life. An empty spreadsheet filled the glowing screen. "Please sit down, Tim." Tim sat down. The woman towered over him. "Open the box and take out a folder so we can start," she said. Tim followed her instructions. Each box was filled with light brown folders. Each folder was filled with pages of a spreadsheet printed on light yellow paper. The spreadsheet consisted of columns for name, date of birth, date of death, date of arrival, place of birth, place of death, time of death. "Tim, from now on you will do data entry. You'll type the information from the folders into the spreadsheet on the computer. Once you've transferred all the information from a folder into the computer, you will shred each page in that folder. Then you will print out the spreadsheet you just typed and place those pages into the empty folder. You will then place the folder with the new spreadsheet into the box and continue to the next folder. Once you have completed a box, you will place it outside your cubicle for pickup. There is a designated spot for the completed boxes next to the entrance, just to the left. You will then start on the next box. Don't worry about running out of boxes. Someone will come by to bring you new boxes regularly." "How long do I have to do this?" Tim asked. "Until the end of time." If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more stories like this and more.